What's going on, guys? This is Chris from E404, Show Not Found.
Hello, I'm Alexander Mansfield.
And I'm Krista Walsh.
So we're here at CanCon, Ottawa's largest spec fiction convention. We're going to do a whole bunch of stuff. We're going to talk to some authors, look at some books, stick together.
Absolutely, we're going to stick together the whole way through. Absolutely, not going to get separated.
No, never. Just right here.
Charles de Lint's over there. I'll be back.
No, don't.
No, but the books are over here.
No, don't. Children. I'm working with children.
I'm Krista Walsh, and I am at the CanCon 2016 at the Novotel Hotel with the organizers of this year, Künsken and Marie Bilodeau. Thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about CanCon. Why did it get started? Why do you feel that it was important that it got started?
So CanCon started in 1991, which is quite a while ago. It comes from a tradition of fans wanting to talk to authors. And so that's unlike Comic-Con, where you go in and you buy a lot of stuff, and you know, if you want to talk to Stan Lee, you have to pay $50, wait in the line, and then you still don't get to talk to Stan Lee. So what fans in our tradition do is they pull together conferences where they talk about literature, talk about science fiction, talk about science, and they bring authors in, and the authors show up at the same parties as the fans go to. And in the hallways, in the dealer's room, you'll run into the guest of honor, and you just sit down and chat with them, and it's access, and it's also about building community as well. Science fiction fans like talking to other people about the stuff they like, and authors also need a whole extra set of supports, and so we try and provide all those things all at once in basically what's a weekend sort of party.
And we try to target like the new writer and the established writer and a little bit of everyone, so there's something for everyone at any level.
Since 2010, have you seen an evolution in the con in terms of how many people come, in terms of the number of authors that are interested in coming?
Oh, absolutely. So in 2010, I think we had under 100 people, and in 5 years we got up to just shy of 300. So that's bringing in people from New York, California, Thunder Bay, Quebec, Montreal, Toronto, Hamilton. I mean, we've been pulling, and the people around here. So we said, let's do two things really, really well. Let's do the literature, both readers and writers. Let's do that amazing. And then the second thing let's do really well is science. And so we've got an expert track with scientists who come in from local universities, and we've expanded that to an expert group, where last year we even had a Renaissance guest of honor.
And we've really had the chance to reach out to new communities, so the word is getting out there that we exist, that we're in Ottawa, that we're present. So we're getting some new groups in, like the NaNoWriMo group is quite involved at this point. And we have a lot of new students who are learning that we're around. We have a lot of students who are coming through. We have, we're considered a young con for a literary crowd, which is really nice. And we have people from, like Derek said, from all over who are coming now. So it's just growing, and it's fun because we get everyone coming to us.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me and tell us a little bit. And I can't wait to see what becomes of this con.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
CanCon 2016 with author Bryski, and I'm just here to ask her a couple of questions. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and the projects that you have worked on and are working on?
So I am a fantasy author, playwright, and podcaster. My short fiction has appeared in Black Treacle Horror Magazine, Tales from the Archives, Daily Science Fiction, forthcoming from Strange Horizons and Apex. Just a few. And also, what was recently released was my one-woman podcasted audio drama, 6 Stories Told at Night. It was funded by the Ontario Arts Council, and it took 5 traditional Canadian folktales and interwove them into one larger framing narrative.
So what got you started on that trail?
It was actually a conversation I had just by chance with another fantasy author, Theodora Goss. And we were talking about fantasy, and she said, well, I wonder what really Canadian fantasy would look like. Like fantasy that's not derived from an Indo-European source, but actual Canadian fantasy. And I said, I don't know. And I've been trying to answer that question ever since, and one of the ways I've gone about it is looking back to our stories.
What do you have planned next?
Well, more short fiction, and also looking more at stage writing.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for taking the time to chat with us.
Thank you for having me.
I'm Krista Walsh, and I'm at Novotel for the CanCon 2016 with Kelly Robson, who has just broken out as of 2015 and is now on the nomination list, on the awards list for like 15 million nominations. So tell us a little bit about how you went from 0 to 60.
Well, it took about 30 years, as a matter of fact, to go from 0 to 60 in absolutely no time at all. I have always wanted to be a writer, and it turns out that it takes a long time to learn to be a writer. In 2013, I finally figured it out, and it was a pivotal moment in my life.
What was the magical secret?
The magical secret was getting laid off of my job. So in 2013, on April Fool's Day, I was laid off of my job, and the very next day I went to a cafe and I started rewriting a story that hadn't been working. And I started it from scratch with some really good advice from some really great writers, one of whom is Stephen Barnes, who is an amazing alternate history writer. And I started Waters of Versailles from scratch. 6 months later, I had the story done. It was a novella, and it worked really, really well, and it sold to the biggest market in science fiction.
So CanCon is like one of the biggest Canadian conventions for speculative fiction.
That's right.
So why do you feel that events like this are really important for the spec fic landscape in Canada?
Science fiction community is an amazing, amazing place. People who love science fiction are passionate about it. We love to talk about it. We love to live it. We love to discuss it. We love to fight about it. We love to think about it, and we love to share it with each other. So science fiction conventions are a place where you can do that live and face to face, and that's why science fiction conventions are really important to the community.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your time, and I wish you really the best of luck. Considering what you've done last year, I can't wait to see what you do going forward.
Thank you so much. It was really nice talking.
I'm Krista Walsh, and I am here at the Novotel for the CanCon 2016 and speaking with the phenomenal Charles de Lint. To get started, how about you tell a little bit about your history in the publishing field and in the fantasy writing field?
Wow, that could take a long time. I guess the easiest way to describe it, I mean, I've always written, I just love to write, but I wanted to be a musician first. Somewhere along the line, I realized that I can actually make a living doing writing. And so I started concentrating on that instead, and it went from there.
You have like a very folklorish kind of feel to your fantasy, so what was it that drew you to that genre?
Well, as I was growing up, I always read fairy tales and folklore and those kind of books, and I always liked a book with a bit of a fantasy element to it. I also like to read modern books as well, as a kid as well, and I was growing up. My wife, actually, Mary Ann, told me, well, you love those two different things. Why don't you combine them and put them in one kind of book? And I said, well, that's never going to work, because at that point, no one had been doing that. And so I wrote a book, and it didn't work, but I learned from writing that book how it could make it work. And then I wrote the book called Moonheart, which it combined, the myth and folklore and contemporary times and police procedurals and all kinds of different things, and just fell in love with doing that kind of thing.
I know that you originally wrote your settings in like Ottawa based, and then you kind of moved them to Newford. So do you feel that if you started again, like right now, today, do you think you could get away with keeping them in Ottawa, or would you still move them to?
When I first started writing, I had to do research, but I had no money, and I had a job, and so I couldn't travel and that. So I set them in places that I knew. And I was always told that, or the advice you get is, set it in a big American city. And I discovered that the opposite was true, that people really liked the fact that it was in a different setting. I think that I probably would have still done the same thing, the only reason I did the Newford books was that I kind of fell into it. I was asked to do a story for an anthology, and I wanted to do a story set in a larger urban center than I was familiar with. Through the books, I'd gone to New York and Chicago and LA and places, and I had some familiarity, but not enough to write about it. But I wanted to set a story in a place like that, so I just set it in an unnamed place. And then I got asked to another story for another anthology, and thought, well, that was so much fun, I think I'll do it again. And I did it 3 or 4 of them, and then I realized I might as well give the place a name and figure it out from there.
Well, yeah, you built it up into this absolutely wonderful, broad universe. So what's next on the docket?
I have a big adult novel coming out. We hope to get it either this year or early next year. And I don't have a name for it, but it's set in the same setting as The Painted Boy and The Mystery of Grace, sort of that kind of deserty setting. And then I've been working on. I have three books set in Newford that will be coming out, which kind of involves all the old crew that we met in the other books.
Thank you very, very much for taking the time.
Well, thanks, Krista.
And it was lovely meeting you, and I hope that you enjoy the rest of your weekend.
Oh, thank you. I hope you do too.
Get over here. So guys, that was CanCon. It was a lot of fun, wasn't it?
Yeah, I bought Klingon coffee, and I've had a lot of it, and it's really good.
Yes, we're very proud of you.
Yeah.
But there's all the books are still there.
I know, there's always more books. But that's it for us today. We're going to head out and try to see more geeky stuff. So thank you very much, guys.
We'll see you later. Bye.
Let's go.